All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the budget informational meeting. The date is February 28, 2024, and we are at the BFA library space. Please join me for a pledge of allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. I think we should just roll into the budget information thing, Bill, whatever you have for the prelude.
I didn't have much of a prelude. I thought we'd show it first, and then I'm sure we'll have some questions for details to go over, so.
Perfect.
Yep.
What's this going? That was ours. It's in my mailbox.
That's
This is good.
good.
I got a excellent mailing address. Did you get one too?
Hello there, my name is Bill Kimball and I'm the Superintendent of Schools for Maple Run. I'd like to welcome you to the Maple Run Unified School District's 2024-2025 budget presentation.
In this presentation, we plan to give you an overview of the district, talk to you about our newly adopted district goals, and the budget that the board is proposing to support the achievement of those goals. We're fortunate in Maple Run to have an excellent team governing our district. It is made up of 10 directors from all 3 towns. There are 4 directors from St. Albans City, 4 from St. Albans Town, and 2 from Fairfield. The 2 Fairfield representatives each have a half vote, so we have a total of 9 votes for the entire board. This board has worked very well as a team, and there are 5 of them up for re-election in this year's annual meeting and town meeting in March. All video portions of this presentation were produced at Maple Run Schools with the assistance of our students. The Maple Run Unified School District is where inquiring minds, compassionate hearts, creative expression, healthy lives, and service to the community develop so that all can learn, achieve, and succeed. The Maple Run Unified School District consists of 2,727 students and 584 staff members spread across 6 campuses. Our schools serve the pre-K through 12th grade population and provide career training through our adult education programs. Last year, we worked directly with our community to learn what they wanted for our school system. After numerous listening sessions, our school board adopted the following goals: rigorous academics and expectations, consistent policies to address bias and behavior issues, support services for students and families, opportunities for family and community engagement, and community education and action on inclusion. The vision that came from our work with the community is that Maple Run has a culture of excellence. People rise to high expectations to meet them. All students feel challenged and supported to excel in tradition and non-traditional learning opportunities based on their individual needs and strengths. Staff feel supported in their professional and work-life balance to be their best self for students. MRUSD staff have opportunities and expectations to collaborate across schools and grade levels so that there are shared learning about best practices. As a result, all Maple Run students will be aware of and have access to high-quality learning opportunities. The video you're about to see is a great example of how we're starting to achieve this goal.
So one thing that I really take advantage of is that we have a whole bunch of AP classes. Throughout my time here, I've taken 7.
I would argue that it's the thinking skills that we're teaching kids that is the most rigorous part about what we're doing.
I'm getting a lot of college credit before I graduate, which is really nice and really helpful. I think that the relationships that you can build with teachers is really great. Just the care that teachers put into their work really shows.
I look forward to my classes because I'm taking a really well-rounded schedule with a lot of classes that I'm interested in, mainly focused in science and math, because that's what I want to do. And I'm lucky to have the opportunity to take those fun classes.
We have a district-wide procedure on harassment and discipline that are consistently applied and supported and respect victims and all involved. The procedures include systems of tracking, communicating, reporting, and addressing harassment and bias. The Maple Run community, including parents, students, and educators, and the wider community has a clear understanding of what harassment and bias are, the impact, and the consequences, as well as the skills to address it. In our next video, you'll see our progress on this goal as well.
I put a pretty significant focus on restorative practices because it has a lot to do with developing relationships and understanding individual kids.
The middle school does weekly circles on Wednesdays to build that community and also offer opportunity for when any adversity arises to be able to address it in a way that is safe for everybody and is able to repair the harm that has been caused.
Having those solid relationships sort of gives us the greater power to be able to interact effectively with helping them get through those problems and whatever those problems are. Whether it's a problem they're having at home and it's affecting them here at school, or a problem they're having with a student, another student here at school, we're better able to work with kids. And that takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of energy.
In this next coming video, you will see how all students at all schools have access to individualized learning opportunities and flexible pathways, be it college preparatory, traditional, or customized pathways. The community, including students, parents, teachers, staff, and others, have easily accessible, seamless, and coordinated information on available services in the schools or in the community. They know and can share how to access these services to better support every student.
Every teacher I have had, I felt comfortable going to and talking to about something that's like been wrong. And then even past teachers, I'll still go see them now just to catch up and kind of tell them where I'm at.
It's just kind of essential for kids to feel supported and have the resources to seek help and have the people that are surrounding them have the resources to know how to help them.
My guidance counselor reaches out to me regularly just to check in and see where I'm at and schedule regular meetings. And the teachers, it is really easy to get along with them and develop some sort of personal relationship.
One thing that I've always felt like I benefited from is group learning and hands-on learning. So if there was a way that I could incorporate that into every class rather than just looking at a worksheet and try to applying it there, would really benefit my learning and my experience.
I think anything that's, hands-on learning, anything that our students can do that's not just sitting in a classroom is where we need to focus our resources.
One of our highest values in Maple Run is the opportunity to partner with families in our community to better the educational system. The schools are our community centers that are welcoming to all and not just a place of education for students. People who have been underrepresented in the past are involved, and there are representation across all 4 schools. There are education and skill building opportunities for students and families to engage with the district. There's ongoing intentional two-way communication with the school and the greater Maple Run community. This next video is an example of how we're starting to achieve this goal.
I've been in the past 11 BFA theater productions. We have one of the better auditoriums in the area, and we have a really good department.
I love performing in the PAC. It is a great opportunity to play in such a beautiful space. Anyone from the community can come and listen to our concerts. I think one of the most rewarding parts of playing and performing for our community is definitely just having that adrenaline and to be able to make people laugh and to really just relax and enjoy themselves. It not only makes us feel like we are professional musicians, but we are also representing Mr. Bushy and the entire BFA school, and we want to do a great job doing that.
We run at this school the Operation Happiness Project. It's essentially a food drive. All of the kids get involved in what we're doing, some a little bit more than others, but it is a time where we get to see kids genuinely enjoying the work that they're doing, because they don't really realize or think that it's schoolwork. They really believe that they're helping their community, and I think anytime you can help make your community a better place, it allows you to feel better and allows you to buy in more to what you're doing at school.
We really have a lot of resources that teach us how to help with the community and how to really impact the people around us in the best way possible.
Our vision for achieving the goal of community education and action on inclusion is that all students at all schools have meaningful, structured, and consistent education and skill building regarding equity. They know about and are ready to go out into the world beyond Franklin County and Vermont and have the life skills and understanding to take advantage of diverse options. There are pathways to include families in the wider community in education and skill building.
I go to State Tech. I'm in the social justice group in 8th grade. Social justice is a club that makes people hopefully feel more welcome at our school. It's very important for schools to have groups like this because we're working towards this being a very inclusive school for everybody.
I feel so welcome by faculty and by students, and overall it's just been a great experience academically, socially, in the fine arts, in athletics, everything above and beyond.
Hi, I'm Martha Gagne, Business Manager for the Maple Run Unified School District. The proposed expenditure budget for the 2024-2025 school year for Maple Run is $76,232,411. This represents an estimated spending per weighted student of $14,278. This is actually about $20 less from the current year weighted student. This breakdown shows where the various costs are accounted for. About 76% of our total budget is for salary and benefits costs for our 584 employees. 5% is for contracted services. 12% goes to tuition, transportation, and property services. 5% for supplies and equipment, and another 2% for dues, fees, and debt service. This slide shows the expense in a different format, basically by cost centers. As you can see on this slide, the majority of our budget is for instruction K through 12 of $21,549,026, with all the various cost centers totaling the $76,232,411. Once we have a board-adopted budget, we can calculate estimated tax rate. We start with our proposed expenditure budget that was approved by the board of $76,232,411. From that, we subtract out our local revenues, which include items such as interest income, tuition, grants, and etc. We're estimating that figure to be $19,025,059. That leaves us the remaining amount of the education spending amount of $57,207,352. This is the amount that comes from the education fund in Montpelier. We take the education spending amount and divide it by the MRUSD long-term weighted average daily membership, which is our weighted student count of 4,006.72. This gives us our education spending per weighted student of the $14,278. We then take that figure and divide it by the property dollar equivalent yield, which at this time is $9,452, which gives us our estimated education homestead tax rate of $1.43. This slide shows what our education tax rate has been prior to common level of appraisal adjustments since we merged in 2017. Our FY25 estimated tax rate is actually 6 cents less than our highest tax rate since our merger, which was at $1.49. Once we apply the common level of appraisal, which is a mechanism to bring every homestead tax liability to market value, we can compare from the prior year. We start with our estimated education tax rate of $1.43, and for St. Albans City, we adjust it by the common level of appraisal by 64.01% to come to a $2.23 tax rate. For St. Albans Town, the adjusted CLA of 79.72% gives us a tax rate of $1.79. And for Fairfield Town, the adjusted CLA of 109.2% gives us a tax rate of $1.31. As you can see on this slide, the education tax rate increase is responsible for a $68 increase per $100,000 homestead value. Remaining increase is based on the town's assessed home values compared to fair market value. The estimated homestead tax rate impact for St. Albans City, including the common level of appraisal adjustment. This chart gives you a sample of what the estimated impact will be based on your home value. On a $200,000 home, the estimated impact is going to be about $647. The estimated homestead tax rate impact for St. Albans Town, including the common level of appraisal, is shown in this chart. For a $200,000 home, the estimated impact is about $475, keeping in mind that this is not adjusted for income sensitivity. And with Fairfield, the estimated homestead tax rate impact for a $200,000 home is estimated to be around $500. This chart shows what the education tax liability may be calculated based on your household income. If less than $128,000, you may be eligible for property tax credit based on your household income.
So we'd like to take a minute here to explain the items that will be on the ballot on town meeting day. The first article that's on the ballot is for the district clerk. This is for a 3-year term for Anna Bordeaux seeking re-election. Article 2 is the district treasurer, and this again is for a 3-year term, and Amanda Forbes is seeking re-election. Article 3 is the election of 4 of our Maple Run Board of Directors. There's one that's an elect at large by the legal voters of Maple Run, 1 director from the town of Fairfield for 3 years. The second is to elect at large by the legal voters of Maple Run, 1 director from St. Albans Town for 3 years. And the last one is to elect at large by the legal voters of Maple Run, 2 directors from St. Albans City for 3 years. Article 4 is to elect at large by the legal voters of Maple Run, 1 director from St. Albans Town for the remaining 1 year of a 3-year term. Article 5 reads, shall the legal voters of Maple Run Unified School District number 57 authorize the Board of Directors to borrow money not in excess of anticipated revenues for the school year pursuant Title 16 VSA 562 subsection 9. This allows for interest income, allows for uninterrupted invoice processing, and reduces late fees. This will not add to your tax bill. Article 6 is a capital improvement fund. Shall the voters of Maple Run Unified School District number 57 authorize the Board of Directors to transfer the audited general fund balance of the current fiscal year to a capital reserve fund to be used for capital improvements and operations of the Maple Run Unified School District number 57. Again, this item will not add to your tax bill. Article 8 is the school budget. Shall the legal voters of Maple Run Unified School District number 57 approve the Board of Directors to expend $76,232,411, which is the amount the board has determined to be necessary for the ensuing fiscal year beginning July 1, 2024. Those are all the items on the ballot this year.
My name is Nilda Ganella French, and I'm the chair of the Maple Run School Board. I'm here to let you know a bit about the voting process. First of all, you need to request either an early ballot or an absentee ballot. In order to do this, you may go to your city clerk or town clerk's office and request that in person, in writing, by telephone, and even by their website. The important thing to remember is you need to request an early ballot by February 28, 2024. So if you are going to do this early ballot process, you can vote at your town clerk or your city clerk's office, or as I said earlier, you can mail it in by the deadline or hand deliver it to the office, ask someone to pick it up for you. If there are issues with mobility, the city or town clerk will send two justice of the peace to come and do that for you. I'd like to direct you to the next slide. Vote is by Australian ballot. Vote is on Tuesday, March 5th, 2024. The polls are open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. There are 3 polling locations. If you're a Fairfield town resident, the voting location is at the Fairfield Center School on Park Street. St. Albans City residents will vote at St. Albans City Hall on Main Street, and St. Albans town residents will vote at the Collins Pearly Sports Center on Fairfax Road. Thank you for taking the time to listen and view this presentation. Please vote. Your voice matters.
The most significant thing that makes our district special is the people. There are a large number of teachers who are former students of this particular school district, and a large number of teachers who live in the community. And so there's a tremendous love and care, I think, that runs deep in many of the faculty members that work in this school district.
So Maple Run schools have a lot of really amazing things going for them. We have done a good job at trying to put our best foot forward in the interest of everyone.
I have had such a great education here. I feel ready for what's next year.
I don't know where I would be in life if I didn't have these sort of supports and all these different opportunities.
The only way that we can continue to have those things is if we get support from our community.
Our community is really important to us, and that is why we can make things happen here.
That's great. So we'd like to open it up for any questions that folks either present in the room or on the Zoom would like to ask. Hi, folks present in the room. Any questions?
I'll ask a couple questions. So I'm Brian Doobie, I'm from Fairfield.
Okay.
Yeah, so the first question is, I'm just curious, it says working budget versus proposed budget, how's that work? What's the working budget versus adopted budget, proposed budget, how's that work?
Bill?
I'm not sure what you're looking at, Brian, but
so here's it says working budget, which is different than the adopted budget, which is different. You know, it's so maybe it's like actuals after you have a actual budget and then you have a actuals is the working budget. Is that what?
Oh yeah. So let me explain that. And Bree, help me out with this if I go wrong. Bree Ann's our assistant business manager. Martha couldn't be with us tonight. So the actual expense budget is for FY23. So you can see what was actually spent in FY23. FY24 is the adopted budget, is what the voters adopted. And then the working budget, we have
This
to,
year, right?
for this current year.
Yeah.
For this current year. And then during this current year for FY24, the working budget, we move things around sometimes because items might change from one big expense account to another. And then the proposed budget is what's proposed to the voters for this year.
Okay.
Yep.
So I was also curious I was very curious, the board, I'm reading on page 55 of the superintendent's message. It said the board set a quote, the board set an expenditure budget, I guess proposed budget or to build this budget of 9.8%. I was curious what metric or how did the board come up with that? First question, then I see that's what the actual budget is.
Yes.
What was last year's increase, and how did the board come up with this year's increase? What's the thinking there?
So the board asked us to bring them a budget at first that kept all the services the same, and that came to the 9.8%. Bree's probably looking up what last year's percentage was to get that.
I read somewhere it was like 7.5, and I think I was trying to.
Yeah, I'll Bree look it up right now.
Yeah. So could you explain that in a little more detail? So the board said keep all this.
What? Well, no. So he's asking about the percentage, like how the percentage come from. The board asked for us to bring an initial budget that kept the services the same within the district.
But when you say services the same, what does that mean? That means
for everything that we're providing for kids, that we're providing the same services to the kids.
Okay.
If I can interrupt, Bill, we also have contractual obligations every year with the negotiated contracts with the teachers and the paraprofessionals. So that impacts the number going up a bit, just with keeping things the same otherwise.
Yeah, it's kind of I would just like to get more detail from the numbers to like what drove. It might be helpful going forward. First of all, thank you all for doing what you do. Thank you very much. Thank you for what you do, Bill and your staff, and thanks the school board. So I'm more at a concern that I think the last year's budget went up at 8.5. This year's proposed budget is 9.8. And what if you extrapolate these kind of numbers, people are going to start voting no on budgets. And I'm a pro-education person. I bet everyone here is pro-education, but these numbers are not sustainable. And when I read the annual report, when I read the Messenger article in Messenger, there seems to be a lot of this going on. It's like CLA and common level of appraisal and Act 60 and 5% cap. That's all true. I mean, I sympathize with anybody on the board for that. I totally get it. The rules are changed. I get that. But what you control as a board and the staff is if you got 2 years in a row that are above 8%, those are numbers that are going to have pro-education people start to, it's not sustainable. It's just not sustainable. And I understand about contracts. I was a member of a labor union for 32 years. So I understand contractual obligations. I would like to know in more detail, what drove a 9.8% budget increase. And I'm not here to, I'm just trying to understand the driver. That's what it really, the essence of what's driving that number.
So
and when you say keep services all the same, that assumption means, like productivity in America goes up at 3% a year or 4%. People are, smart staff, they figure out how to do things better, smarter. So, there's got to be, you're a learning organization. So it's more dynamic than just but that's what I think voters want to hear more of what drove the board to say 9.8 guidance. That's really where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
So I have the information here if you want it. The salary increases were increased from last year to this year, or from FY24 to FY25, $2,581,669. And I do want to point out that we already had pre-established support staff and professional staff negotiations. So that was factored into this. The health insurance and related costs went up $2,007,966. So that it was what, 15% for the health insurance?
Yeah, 16%, 16.9%.
So, and we have 584 staff members also. Not all staff members take health insurance, but a large portion of our staff do utilize the health insurance, and we cover 80% of the family plan.
Okay, just so because those are kind of the big rocks here.
Those are the big rocks.
So the budget went from 69 and change, 69 and a half last year to its proposed 76.
Yep.
So the first is staff is 2 million and change, and then healthcare is
2.5 million.
2.5, and healthcare is.
Yep, and 2 million.
So we're talking 5 million.
5.5 or 4.5. Yep, right there. And then tuition, transportation, and property services, that went up another $1 million.
So those are the three.
Those are the three big
And
rocks.
transportation is a very big expense for us.
Okay, well, that's what I'm. I mean, I understand you have a contract. I get it. I just. Okay, well, thank you.
No problem.
I have a question. It used to be if two people worked for the district and one of them would take the insurance and then the district would give money to the other one that didn't take it. Is that still?
That is not still the same thing.
Okay.
It's actually negotiated, right?
Well, it's a state negotiations.
State negotiated.
So if you have two people that work in education in the school system, now because it's one healthcare system for the whole state for all employees, then you don't get it used to be you would get a buyout. And Mike's on the negotiation piece of this, so he knows that part of it. But the buyout is no longer there for the spouse, even if they're in another district.
Well, I'm Becky Trombley and I come from the town.
Yeah.
And I was looking at the price of the taxes, and I might have this wrong. For a $300,000 home, your taxes would go up 700 and something. Was that correct?
I'll quote it for you if you let me flip. I just like to be able to be really exact about this.
$713.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I can expect my taxes to go up to 713,000 plus whatever.
713,100.
Don't add the 1,000.
Don't add the 1,000. Don't add the 1,000, Becky.
Okay, 700 and something. And then when the town raises their taxes, so that my taxes may go up $1,000 this year. Am I right there?
You're right about the education. I don't know what the town is.
Well,
I know they're going up. I just don't know.
Yeah, I know they're going up too. But what I'm saying is, so my taxes are probably going to raise $1,000 or 700 plus whatever
700
the
plus
town,
what the town is,
hits
yeah.
me with. Okay.
Mike?
Can I, just a point of clarity on the question you had before?
Yeah.
Years before we went to statewide health negotiations, we negotiated out of the contract that arrangement that one spouse would be paid if they were in the same district. It was not part of state negotiations to do that. It was actually a legislative. They did it all on their own. The legislature just made a law and said anybody that works for the state, if there are two spouses, only one can get the insurance and there's no payout for the other. So it wasn't even negotiable. They took it out of our hands. So I just wanted to clear that piece up on that aspect.
Great. Thanks, Mike. Anyone else have questions in the room?
We have someone online,
Okay, go ahead.
Sarah Flash.
State your name first, please.
Hi, this is Sarah Flack. See if I can turn on my camera. I'm another Fairfield resident and voter, Sarah Flack. And yeah, my question was mostly asked and answered by Brian, also from Fairfield. I was really curious about what percent of this big jump in the cost is caused by the rising health insurance costs. And it sounds like that was 15%. Does that mean that 15% of this cost is due to health insurance, or was that a 15% increase in the cost of health insurance?
It was a 15% increase in health insurance. So the total increase in the proposed budget from FY24 to FY25, it's actually 29% of the increase that we're going with.
Wow. Okay.
I have another question. I hate to take up everybody's time here, but if the budget doesn't pass, where would you make cuts?
That's work we have to go do after. But most likely, I mean, before, it was an easier answer before at House Bill H-850, because we knew to only affect the tax rate, and that's what you saw, the numbers were pre that bill that just passed a week ago that Governor Scott signed into law, was that we knew we'd have to cut $3 million just to affect the tax rate. So 76% of our budget is personnel. I'm not saying all of it would be personnel, but we'd have to go into personnel for some type of figure like that. When we look at, I'd have to get it, we have it's either 5% or less of our budget is really around supplies, materials. And that really doesn't affect the budget. The place that it does is the personnel costs, the contracted services, just Bree listed most of those big pieces. And it's hard to say that as a superintendent because we're in the people business. People drive our business.
Well, thanks, Bill. Any other questions in the room or online? Yes, sir.
So Brian Doobie again. So there's personnel are 76% of your cost, and they're 100% of your reason for success.
Yep.
Okay, so let me just genuflect at the altar and say that I believe that.
Yeah.
But I think you can, last paragraph of your explanation of kind of like where the cuts were, when you say, and I know you're trying to make a point, but when you say the board would have to reduce spending by 3.2 million, the equivalent of reducing 31 teaching positions, to cut a penny off the tax rate. And then if the board were to keep the tax rates the same as last year, we would need to reduce 13.6 million, the equivalent of 130 teaching positions. I think that's a little oversimplistic. It's almost like waving the flag that the first and the only way to reduce spending is going after teaching positions. And that's just a friendly challenge. Yeah. Because I don't think it's quite that simple. I mean, that's the one that gets people very energized, but the board has more flexibility than just saying we're going to cut teachers. I mean, there's as we heard, you know, it's 4 million, but I think the increase is the salaries of staff is contractual obligations is $4 million, and healthcare
benefits
is well close to $5 million.
Yeah.
But the increase is $7 million.
Yeah.
So you make your point, but it's not that simple. Would you agree with that? I mean, there's still 25%. There's other.
So here, I hear what you're saying, Brian, and I'm not putting teachers or support staff or administrators on the chopping block that way. I agree with your simplicity. I'm trying to make a point of, like, this is the equal part of it. But, you know, do we cut, you know, we could talk about services for keeping the buildings going. And we have very little capital costs that come out of that budget. You know, the heating, the electrical, and that's a small part of that overall budget. We have contracted services, which are services that we have with outside contractors to help us with students and support students. We're legally obligated to provide. We can't pull those out. When we get to other places within the budget, the other places to look at is supplies and materials, those types of things. I know we're at like $300,000 for improvements on our buildings, and our buildings are in tough shape. As we may have heard, we have a $6 billion building crisis in the state of Vermont for schools right now, for needs to keep our buildings up. And we have some of the better buildings in the state of Vermont, especially Saytech City and now Fairfield. But this building is hurting quite a bit. So those are, and we're not investing in those the way we should be to keep the budget down. So I hear what you're saying. It sounds like it's grandiose and it's a little bit of showmanship, but I think to get to that level, and remember that was written pre-H850. So we were in Act 127 in the place where there was a cap for the tax rate, and we were well within the cap of the tax rate, well above it. So the only way we could cut was cut that initial $3 million to start affecting the tax rate. Since last week, when H850 was put into law, now for every dollar that's cut out of the budget, there will be a reduction of the tax rate. But we didn't have that at the time of publication, which was the end of January.
That's helpful.
So that's why that's in there.
Thank you. Anyone online have any questions? Excuse me.
No one has stated online that they'd like to participate.
Any other folks in the room? Pardon me. Well, thank you all for your questions. I hope we have provided you adequate answers. Obviously, you can always contact the supervisory union, either Bill, Kimball, or myself, and we will either answer your questions or direct you to someone who can.
Could I offer one suggestion? Just reiterate, is it might be helpful for voters to see, like, in addition to these cost centers, like what the percentage change proposed in each one of those cost areas. I mean, it might be illustrative for people to say, oh, it looks like fuel costs are going up in transportation. I can understand that, you know, or, you know, just a thought going forward.
It's good feedback. Yeah.
Thank you. All right. I think if there is no other folks in the room or online that wish to ask questions, I guess we can close out this meeting. This is the budget informational meeting